Commercial diving, a profession where the slightest imprecision can cost lives, has recently seen Italy establish a comprehensive national safety law in 2026. Yet, the foundational architecture for this critical legislation didn't originate nationally, but from a pioneering regional law in Sicily a full decade earlier. Rachel, how did a regional intervention become the bedrock for an entire national regulatory framework in such a high-stakes industry?
It's quite a story, Sophie. For years, the work of commercial and hull divers in Italy was largely unregulated, existing in a legislative grey area. This meant Italy lagged significantly behind international standards seen in places like the North Sea or the Gulf of Mexico. Divers performing maintenance on offshore platforms, laying submarine cables, or welding pipelines were effectively in a limbo, governed by outdated royal decrees or fragmented port regulations from the 1970s.
So, a major regulatory void. How did Sicily step in to fill that gap, especially when it concerned an industry with such global implications?
The Sicilian region, with Regional Law No. 7 of 21st April 2016, was truly the first to bring order. It didn't just set out how many course hours were needed, it comprehensively defined the training pathways for commercial and inshore divers. Crucially, it established minimum safety requirements, specified the mandatory equipment for training schools, and set clear evaluation criteria. It was an ambitious and detailed attempt to professionalize the sector.
Defining the law is one thing, but making it operational is another. I understand an implementing decree in 2018 was key to putting this into practice. What did that decree achieve, and what was its most significant outcome?
Indeed, the 2018 implementing decree was vital. It meticulously outlined how training centers needed to be accredited and how exams were to be conducted. This immediately weeded out less credible, improvised structures. But the true institutional leap was the creation of an online registry managed by the Department of Labor of the Sicilian region. This registry now boasts around 200 registered members from Italy and many other European and non-European countries.
Online registry managed by a regional department in Italy attracting international professionals seems counterintuitive. What made this Sicilian registry so appealing and trustworthy to a global diving community? The key was its impartiality and the rigor of public control. Before this registry, a diver would present their curriculum and certifications, typically issued by private schools, directly to employers. Large multinational energy companies, for instance, had to take these documents at face value. The Sicilian registry completely changed this paradigm. The Department of Labor doesn't simply note a certification. It conducts an in-depth documentary audit, verifying training hours, analyzing educational modules, and confirming that the entire pathway occurred under public regulation. This process imbues the registration with a legal weight that a private certificate simply can't match. So, the institutional control acts as a robust anti-fraud filter. If a diver claims, say, 50 deep saturation dives, the region demands documentary proof. This sounds like it directly addresses the need for internationally recognized standards. Does this lead us to IDSA, the International Diving Schools Association?
Absolutely. IDSA was established precisely to create a common language in commercial diver training. Prior to its existence, a diver trained in Italy might have vastly different skills from one trained in Norway or the UK, which made assembling mixed work teams on oil platforms inherently dangerous. IDSA standards define exactly what a diver must know and do at various depth levels, from surface supply to deep saturation. The Sicilian regulation of 2016 and 2018 explicitly aligned its regional educational programs with these IDSA levels. ensuring that a diver trained in Sicily met the same theoretical and practical foundations as one trained anywhere in the North Sea.
That's a significant step, yet I understand that achieving IDSA certification isn't the final benchmark anymore. The new national law of 2026 indicates that certification alone is now considered insufficient. What's driving this shift towards demanding verification of a diver's logbook rather than just relying on a plastic cart?
This distinction between certification and logbook is critical for diving safety. A certification confirms that at a specific point in the past, an operator passed an exam and demonstrated certain skills in a controlled environment. However, the logbook is the real-time chronicle of a diver's professional life. It meticulously records every working dive, maximum depth, bottom time, gas mixture, specific operations performed, such as thermal cutting or non-destructive testing, and crucially, the stamp of the responsible supervisor. Requiring controls according to IDSA standards in the logbook demands irrefutable proof of actual field experience, not just initial training.
This insistence on the logbook seems to highlight a structural problem: the rapid perishability of physical and technical skills. A diver certified 5 years ago, but inactive for 3, represents a significant risk, regardless of their certification. So, the public validation of the logbook by the Sicilian Department of Labor becomes a guarantee of continuous work and skill maintenance. Does this also intersect with the requirements of IMCA, the International Marine Contractors Association?
Yes, it perfectly intercepts IMCA's requirements. IMCA represents employers, the large international maritime contractors, and their primary objective is mitigating operational risk. Their guidelines are extremely strict and effectively act as de facto standards for the entire global offshore sector. While IMCA doesn't certify individual divers, it issues directives on how companies must select personnel. IMCA seeks objective, non-manipulable evidence of a diver's experience. When IMCA audits a company, they scrutinize employee logbooks. If those logbooks have been checked and certified by a third-party government authority, as with the Sicilian Online Registry, the documentation's reliability increases exponentially compared to a logbook signed only by private supervisors.
That explains the influx of foreign professionals seeking registration in the Italian registry. It means submitting their documentation to a level of scrutiny that satisfies IMCA's rigid traceability requirements. The Sicilian region, by acting as this third party, takes on a significant burden of documentary verification, relieving companies of some risk. So, the national law of 2026 essentially extended this proven model across Italy.
Exactly. The national adoption of the Sicilian model addressed an obvious disparity. Before 2026, a diver trained in Ravenna or Naples operated under a different regulatory framework than one trained in Palermo, even if they were working on the same offshore sites in the Mediterranean. The national law institutionalized the publicly countersigned logbook as a core requirement for eligibility in Italian commercial diving. Furthermore, it definitively incorporated the architecture of IDSA standards for training and IMCA guidelines for operations, creating a seamless regulatory continuity from training and skill certification to safe work execution.
The convergence of these 3 elements, regional then national legislation, IDSA training standards, and IMCA operational requirements, truly defines a sector that cannot tolerate improvisation. The path initiated by Sicilian Regional Law No. 7 in 2016 demonstrated that public intervention, when technically sound and aligned with international best practices, can act as a powerful catalyst for an entire industry. The online registry, initially seen as mere bureaucracy, has become an international guarantee of competence on the ocean floor, and the impact extends beyond safety in the field. The analysis of logbooks also has a direct effect on occupational medicine. The physiology of deep diving places enormous stress on the human body, from nitrogen absorption to the risk of aseptic bone necrosis. A certified and verifiable logbook allows occupational doctors to accurately track the pressures and durations an operator has been exposed to over many years. Without this documentary certainty, provided by the cross-checks mandated by regional and now national regulations, the long-term health monitoring of commercial divers would be entirely ineffective and based purely on assumptions.
The regulatory evolution of commercial diving in Italy clearly shows that safety isn't built on single isolated certifications, but on an integrated system where training bodies, public institutions, and international operational standards communicate transparently. Share this episode with colleagues, occupational safety professionals, or anyone interested in how laws shape the most extreme professions.